Robots of any kind, especially giant ones, are awesome. I think they're really interesting and they're super fun to build in this game. So, for that reason, we're going to build one here today for Creative Quick Builds Episode 5. That intro has me pumped up. To begin with, I've constructed this simple pedestal for the robot to stand on, just so it stands out a little more against the naturally generated Minecraft terrain. So if there's a simple background, then the complex mechanics of the robot will look a little bit cooler, I think. Starting with the actual robot itself, I'd like to build a frame. Sort of how, when one is drawing, they build sketch lines first in order to make their character around, because it's kind of hard just to build a robot from the ground up. You kind of need a little bit of a scaffold, if you will. So I'm going to quickly construct sort of a outline of the shape I want it to be. So now that the extremely basic structure is complete, it's now time to add knees, elbows, and other sort of joints and pose it using those joints. Sort of as if you were posing an armor stand with commands, except of course this armor stand is ginormous and will have knees and elbows. Here we are with the joints and the basic pose marked out, and you can see I've kind of gone for a simple statue pose of something holding a sword or a pole or a spear. I was originally going to make it holding a diagonal object, but I figured that would be too complex for this short of a video, so I've decided to go with this for now. What I want to do next is I want to start off with the simple details, and I want to begin with sort of the head area since it's the simpler area, and it doesn't really dictate any of the other parts of the robot. The other reason that I want to start with the head is so I can get a basic style down before I modify any of the other parts of the robot, because the head's pretty small and easy to modify, so if I don't like this style I can simply just tear it out and redo it without too much trouble, whereas any other part of the robot might take a little longer and be a little more difficult because of funky posing or just because of the larger size. I think I've settled on a head design that I'm pretty happy with. I like kind of how it looks like a medieval helmet almost, and I think I'm going to try to carry that theme throughout the robot and make it sort of like a technologically advanced knight. You see I've made grindstones as ears and anvils as brains. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of carry the style onto the shoulders and the forearms. Shoulders and forearms and just arms in general. I'm not sure which part of the arm the forearm is. I think it's this part actually. But anyways, that's beside the point. The point now is to continue. So let's get to it. So if this is the forearm, then this could be the aft arm, I guess. Well, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the aft arm for the rest of the video. Here we are with the warrior vibe continuing onto the chest and shoulders area. I think it looks pretty cool. I've left a gap sort of to indicate that this is kind of like armor and that all the vital stuff is hidden underneath. I've also used grindstones wherever there are joints just to kind of indicate that this part is a moving part and might be vulnerable, as you can see here with the gap in the armor. And here are the aft arms, which I said I'd add. One of the most difficult parts of building robots like this, and just building in general, is controlling detail. I find a lot of times I go overboard with detail and then it just becomes a mess, and I think there's a fine line between detail and mess that, if walked correctly, can lead to some amazing builds, and that's what I'm trying to achieve here. So I'm trying to make sure you can tell that this is in fact an arm and it is separate from the body instead of just being a big mess of different colors and shapes. And that's what I'm going to try with the forearms as well, and it's going to be even more difficult since they're posed this way. So I'm going to move on to that next and add some hands as well. I need to speak with less of a monotone. I swear I'm trying. And just like that, we have ourselves some forearms with claws. Now, I have mixed feelings about these. I like them at some angles, and some angles I do not like them. I tried to make them out of stone instead of the acacia wood as the frame, so they would stand out a little more, and it sort of does the trick in different areas. It's just the nature of the build that it's incredibly detailed, so sometimes sacrifices must be made, I guess. I'm going to keep them for now, but I might change them later. I just want to keep them now because I want to work on the rest of the build first before I change them up and make any decisions I might regret. Next, I want to work on the hips area and give this robot something to hold. The pelvis is now complete, both front and back, and I've also detailed the back of the robot and added a little bit more depth to the front. I've added some walls here and here just to make it poke out a little more so it wasn't as thin and awkward as it was before. I've also given it a little energy spear thing to hold. I might change that later, but it's here for now and it's looking pretty cool, I think. And now it is time, of course, to move on to the final piece and begin the legs. And now that the legs are complete, we can safely call this project complete. I'm super happy with them, and it's been a day since I last built on it, and I think I've warmed up to the arms, so I'm going to keep those as well as keeping this spear thing. Here's a fly around for you, just so you can see the whole thing right around here. I haven't done anything else to the back, just completed the legs and accepted the arms, I guess. So this is pretty cool. I've also added a layer to the platform so that it would match up with the feet nicely. I didn't want to make the feet too tall. With this project, I didn't actually use any actual measurements. I just kind of went off the top of my head and eyeballed it, which is what I do with most and is what I recommend. If you start using measurements, then things get really finicky and it's very easy to get burnt out on projects like that. So I tend to kind of wing it, and it usually works out pretty well, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine. You can just redo it again, and usually you still save more time than if you did measurements exactly. Which is, I think, a great learning point for this episode. You know, don't go limiting yourself, your creativity, with measurements or dimensions. You know, go wild a little bit. As cliche as that sounds, I think it's a good thing for any builder in this game to hold on to. It helps a lot, especially with complex structures like this that aren't as uniform or common as houses and greenery like I've done previously. And with that out of the way, I'd like to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and more importantly, I hope you took inspiration from this video to go try these wild things in your own Minecraft worlds and come up with new ideas out of the box. Anyways, that's it from me. Before we go, though, I'd like to issue a challenge, or not really a challenge, but more of a request for you to challenge me. Give me a palette to use in the comments section, and give me a build style or theme to go with, and I'll try to pick one and use it in the next episode of this series. Anyways, thank you very much for watching again. Goodbye, and see you next time. Have a fantastic day.